News at 6 a.m. weekdays.
This is the CBS Evening News. Bob Schieffer reporting. Good evening. The Middle East is again in flames tonight. In Tunis, a team of assassins gunned down the PLO's military leader and Yasser Arafat's top deputy, a guerrilla leader known as Abu Jihad. Just hours later, Israel's occupied territories exploded in the worst violence in over 4 months of Palestinian protest. Bob Simons in Tel Aviv and has our report.
Not long after the news reached Gaza, Abu Jihad's hometown, there was another violent death, another martyr to the cause, except this time nobody knew his name. By nightfall, 13 Palestinians were dead, making it by far the bloodiest day of the uprising. It was the day of the stretchers. By 2 in the afternoon, one of Gaza's hospitals closed its doors because it could not handle any more casualties. The wards were full of anguish and defiance. To the Israelis, to much of the Western world, Abu Jihad may have been a cold-blooded murderer of women and children. To people in Gaza, he was a local boy who made good, who expressed their feelings with halting English and a steady hand.
We are looking and sending our cry all over the world about drawing the attention to the military occupation, which have to have an end.
The man the Israelis called the godfather of Black September came to his end riddled with 70 bullets in this house in the suburbs of Tunis. In Damascus, his father said he'd been expecting this to happen for a long time. In Tel Aviv, Army spokesmen said they had absolutely no comment, but military sources said approvingly that the operation bears all the hallmarks of a classic. Other Israelis speculated that it could have been the work of rival PLO factions, but the leaders of those factions put the blame squarely back here.
Undoubtedly, the Israeli leadership is responsible.
If it was, it clearly didn't coordinate with its troops, who found themselves short-staffed this Sabbath in Gaza. They couldn't even attempt to put out all the fires that were ignited in protest that cast a pall of mournful smoke over the entire strip. A tent was pitched and a wake was held outside the family home. Soldiers did not try to break it up. They did insist, however, that the mourners take down the Palestinian flag.
There will be no PLO flag here. There will be no Israel flag, there will be no PLO flag here.
There were actual negotiations between Palestinians and Israelis. The flags were taken down, the soldiers withdrew, the flags were put up again. Riots in Ramallah today resemble the early days of December, with full-fledged street battles punctuated by the taking of prisoners. In Nablus, people staged a mock funeral. PLO leaders have been struggling to catch up with this children's uprising to assert their influence on a revolt that was outrunning them. They received a message today that their efforts have been noticed, that the common denominator between what's happening inside and outside the territories is death. Bob Simon, CBS News, Tel Aviv.
And there was more terrorism today in Italy. An Italian senator and a close aide of the new prime minister was assassinated. A faction of the Red Brigade's terrorist group claimed responsibility for that. And in another development, police in Naples revealed that a Japanese Red Army terrorist who suspected in Thursday's USO car bombing was helped by a woman Red Army member and a second man. The Red Army is known to have links with terrorists in Lebanon. In the Persian Gulf today, Iran warned it would strike back if the U.S. retaliates for this week's mine explosion that damaged an American warship. U.S. officials are puzzled by Iran's behavior, and White House correspondent Terrence Smith has more on that.
As Navy divers detonated 2 additional mines in the Persian Gulf and the crippled U.S. frigate Samuel B. Roberts was towed towards port, administration officials said today they had concluded that Iran's Revolutionary Guards laid the mine that injured 10 American sailors Thursday. The officials also believe that Iranian elements aided and abetted the hijackers of the Kuwaiti airliner when it was on the ground in northern Iran. Why this sudden escalation when Iran appears willing to consider a UN-sponsored ceasefire in its war with Iraq? One specialist believes the answer is connected to Iranian political infighting.
The Revolutionary Guards have a vested interest in keeping this war going. It serves their interests, it increases their budget every year, and they are becoming much more powerful as long as this war goes on.
And what will the U.S. do? Last September, the Navy attacked, boarded, and seized an Iranian ship that was caught seeding mines in the Gulf's shipping lane. But at a high-level White House meeting yesterday, the president and his top advisors reportedly postponed any decision on retaliation for the latest mining incident. White House officials will not say what the U.S. might do, but they emphasize that intensive negotiations are underway right now at the UN to get Iran to agree to a ceasefire, and they want to avoid anything that might derail those efforts. Terrence Smith, CBS News, the White House.
And more trouble today for Attorney General Meese. The man he asked to fill a key vacancy in the Justice Department now says he's not sure he wants the job. New questions are being raised about how the department can function in the final months of the Reagan administration. Rita Braver reports.
Part of the president's effort against narcotics.
The Justice Department has acknowledged that John Shepard, the St. Louis attorney who was tapped to become deputy to Attorney General Edwin Meese, yesterday told Meese he may withdraw. Only last week, Shepard said he was eager to take the job.
I wanted to express to you how honored I am to be asked to serve in this capacity.
But department sources say that Shepard was unprepared for the intense scrutiny he would get from Congress and reporters. He and his family are said to be particularly troubled by the prospect that his Senate confirmation hearings could focus on allegations by a former employee of Shepard's law firm that she had an affair with him. Shepard has categorically denied the allegations, and the woman has been convicted of embezzling thousands of dollars from the firm. Shepard is also concerned about pressure to resign from two private clubs he belongs to. One has no black members, the other no female members. And department sources say looming over everything is concern about putting his reputation on the line in light of the Attorney General's own personal legal problems. Shepard could not be reached for comment today, but last night told the Washington Post the situation has caused terrible stress, complete disruption of our family life. Shepard has promised a final answer next week. If he does withdraw, it will be another embarrassment for Meese, who insisted on announcing Shepard for the job over White House staff objections while the president was on vacation in California and before any of the usual FBI checks could be made on Shepard. The top leadership of the Justice Department is now vacant. Meese's former deputy and the head of the criminal division resigned in protest over his legal problems, and the department's number 3 man left for a judgeship. Insiders describe department morale at an all-time low, with only Meese and his special counselor, the controversial civil rights chief William Bradford Reynolds, running things from what one source called the bunker. Rita Braver, CBS News, Washington.
Coming up next on tonight's CBS Evening News, the latest on the Kuwaiti airliner hijacking, and later on, good times in Massachusetts. Does this man deserve the credit?
Dreaming the dreams of America.
Why do so many people choose GMAC financing to get the GM car or truck of their dreams? GMAC makes it easy. You do it all right at your GM dealers. And we make it easy on your budget with rates and terms to fit your needs. Don't just dream about a new GM car or truck. See your GM dealer about GMAC financing. GMAC! Official sponsor of America's Dreams.
Excuse me. No problem. We know about Kaopectate, too.
Kaopectate actually absorbs the germs that can cause diarrhea.
Kaopectate bags. The diarrhea specialist.
The Century 21 Action Warranty. We don't just tell you what we'll do to sell your home. We put our promises in writing.
Put your trust in number 1, Century 21.
The hijackers of the Kuwaiti airliner talked face-to-face with reporters today at the Algiers airport, but what they had to say only heightened fear the hijacking will not conclude peacefully. Bill McLaughlin with that.
The odyssey of the hijacked Kuwaiti jumbo jet may be destined for a bloody end. The pro-Iranian terrorists, holding almost 36 hostages aboard the plane for 12 days now, announced today they want to fly to another country, strongly suggesting that they would then begin murdering their hostages. The new threat was made this afternoon. At the demand of the masked gunmen, 3 reporters were selected at random and sent to the door of the aircraft, where they met 3 of the terrorists, one of them toting a submachine gun. The reporters were forced to crouch as the terrorists read a rambling, violently anti-American statement trying to justify their acts. They said they were fighting for true Muslims against America and Israel. They insisted on their principal demand, that 17 of their gang members, all in Kuwaiti jails for murder and attacking Western embassies, be freed, or the hostages would be executed. The gunmen said they wanted to fly to another country to carry out their threats because they didn't want to embarrass Algeria, a country they praised. One of the reporters who encountered the gunmen was Yusuf Ibrahim of the New York Times. He said they seemed deadly serious, and this was just one of their threats.
We are asking our Algerian brothers to fill the airplane with fuel because we will liquidate our account with Kuwait elsewhere.
Something went very wrong here, but exactly what is still a mystery. The Algerian government had hinted that it had some magic formula to bring this crisis to a happy ending. Obviously, it didn't. The Kuwaitis refused to offer the terrorists the slightest compromise, and reportedly after an argument among themselves, the terrorists decided to play this out to a possibly bitter end. If the jumbo is refueled and takes off, this crisis will be over for the Algerians. But for the passengers of Kuwaiti Flight 422, the worst may be yet to come. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News, Algiers Airport.
The hijacking, of course, has been a major news story around the world for almost 2 weeks now, but for the Kuwaitis, it is the only news. Mark Phillips with that story.
In Kuwait these days, there is but one topic of conversation, the hijack. What Kuwait should do about it, how much longer it can go on. According to one of the released hostages, Mohammed Eshkanani, it can go on for a long time. He says the hijackers told him they're prepared to wait for as long as it takes to get their demands.
They said you stay with us on the airplane. Maybe 1 week more or 1 month, 1 year, you stay.
The Kuwaitis, too, say they can wait and have no intention of opening their prison gates to release the 17 convicted terrorists they're holding as the hijackers want. In fact, in the mosques here this week, Kuwaiti mullahs have been saying the government should even be tougher. It should stop delaying, they say, and should execute the 3 jailed terrorists who've been sentenced to death. The mosque goers agree.
If the sentence was killing, they should have been killed.
What the Algerian mediators call Kuwaiti intransigence here is called principle of not giving in to terror, in the firm belief that any capitulation this time will only lead to more. But the Kuwaitis say they know what they're up against.
What is going on now, tug of war? Either we give up or they give up. And I think they are in the weak position and they have to give up.
In Kuwait and in the entire Islamic world, the religious observance of Ramadan begins tomorrow. A month of day-long fasting, traditionally a month of trial. For the Kuwaitis, the trial has already begun. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Kuwait.
I stained this last year, and it's fading already. Why?
You didn't protect it with Thompson's Water Seal Stain.
Look at that streaking. Guess I used the wrong stain.
You did. Only Water Seal Stain contains Thompson's Water Seal, a formula that's better than the leading brand at protecting both the color and the wood, and this test shows it.
With Water Seal Stain, the next time won't be for a long time.
Thompson's Water Seal Stain, beauty that lasts at last. Now available at selected paint, hardware, and home center stores.
This is the all-new Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme, and this is the new Cutlass Supreme game going on right now. Game brochures are at your Oldsmobile dealer or participating McDonald's. Understand so far? Good. Play the Cutlass Supreme game. You could win an all-new Cutlass Supreme SL or $1,000 in cash. And you'll get a coupon for cash back on a new Cutlass Supreme. Game pieces are at your Olds dealer. You should go there. Any question? Good.
Dentuaries. Now everybody's calling me the Fresh Mouth. Thanks to Super Strength Collagen Green. It's got a minty mouthwash ingredient, so it freshens up dentures as it cleans tough stains. Try Super Strength Collagen Green, the mouth-freshening clean. Ah.
A gentle guarantee. X-Lax is guaranteed to work gently by 8 a.m. when taken at bedtime or your money back. A promise you can count on. X-Lax, guaranteed complete relief by 8 a.m.
Yet another debate today on this last weekend before Tuesday's Democratic primary here in New York, and today the candidates were on their best behavior. Hardly a cross word spoken. Chief political correspondent Bruce Morton has our report.
The Democrats have had many debates, and at this one, a questioner wondered, aren't you cutting each other up while George Bush basks in the sunlight?
Well, I don't see any intensity out there for George Bush. I don't see anyone who's ready to go through the wall for George Bush, and with good reason. And I'll give you some of them. Probably a good reason why extended residence in Washington doesn't qualify you to lead American foreign policy necessarily either. But
one surprising question: would you make it public if you or a family member had AIDS? Only Jesse Jackson said yes.
I would tend to make it public as a matter of helping with the healing process to break down the hysteria. And so I affirm the handshake and the embrace by shaking the hands of people who I know, who have AIDS, who are dying, who by their dying others might live if it stimulates research.
This debate was mild-mannered. Clark Kent's, not Superman. The closest they came to disagreement was over who was big enough to bargain with Mikhail Gorbachev.
I look forward to negotiating with Mr. Gorbachev. For one thing, I like to negotiate against tough people and with tough people.
I believe I know what to do and how to go about it. Mistakes on the campaign trail, on strategic policy, can be corrected and modified during the course of the campaign. Mistakes during a summit meeting, mistakes during the conduct of strategic policy are something else again.
The candidates spent the rest of the day flying around this big state. In Buffalo, Jackson ran into snow. Inside, the weather and the crowd were a lot warmer. Gore campaigned in snowy Buffalo too, but indoors, courting ethnic voters at the big Broadway market, a dangerous place if you like food.
I tell you, I'm going to get fat in this market.
And Michael Dukakis was chasing ethnic votes too in Queens, with campaign aides telling reporters it's a close race between Dukakis and Jackson. Gore concedes he is behind. Polls agree. This weekend, Gore started running a TV ad about his endorsement by New York's controversial Mayor Ed Koch.
I'm voting for Al Gore.
Whether that will help Gore or hurt him is something New Yorkers argue about. Bruce Morton, CBS News, New York.
Something else guaranteed to get an argument going is the subject that Dukakis has been talking a lot about, the economic recovery in his home state. His critics say that he takes too much of the credit for it, and for sure he's not bashful about bringing it up.
Last month, my state had an unemployment rate of 2.9%. No joke, 2.9%.
No joke, he's right. Times are so good in the Bay State, they call it the Massachusetts miracle. Mike Dukakis talks about it a lot, too much in the view of home state critics.
He certainly seems to bask in the glory of the Massachusetts miracle.
In a new book, Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor David Lampe argues Dukakis should not get credit for the Massachusetts miracle.
The turnaround happened by itself, driven by entrepreneurs, most of all small businessmen in the high-tech area.
And, says Lampe, what brought them to Massachusetts had little to do with Dukakis or his programs. Example, 65 colleges and universities in the Boston area alone turn out thousands of highly skilled professionals each year. So it was only natural that high-tech companies would be drawn there. Tax breaks for business also helped a lot. Ironically, Dukakis opposed some of them.
He opposed a limit on state taxes. He supported tax increases, which we and other groups were able to defeat. Everything he did was the opposite of what he tells people out there he is standing for.
Dukakis' supporters say that misses the point, that it was Dukakis' leadership which created a climate for economic recovery.
Before Mike Dukakis became governor, state government in Massachusetts was an irrelevancy in economic terms on its best days and a real impediment on its worst days.
In every creek, there beats the heart of a chef.
While Dukakis takes pride in the low unemployment figures, he seldom points out that many of the positions being filled are menial minimum wage jobs.
In fact, we've lost a lot of manufacturing jobs in the state. About 30% of the manufacturing jobs that have been lost in the last 5 years have been lost here in Massachusetts.
Nevertheless, Dukakis says it's the overall picture that counts and that what worked in Massachusetts can work other places as well.
We can turn things around. We can bring jobs and economic growth to communities like this one.
When you look at this country and see places that aren't sharing in the economic recovery, you're looking at the Massachusetts of a decade ago.
True enough, but Dukakis had a lot to work with in Massachusetts that won't be available in other places. Making miracles has never been easy, and duplicating them is bound to be a lot harder, especially economic miracles.
No mayor, governor, or president is going to be able to implement quick fixes in some of these places that have been affected by the changing world economy.
Dukakis would probably agree. He can rightly say that what happened in his home state can help him understand how to search for solutions to far more complex problems. But the current economic situation being what it is, neither he nor anyone else can promise a miracle.
So what are you doing at Dow these days, Peggy?
Well, right now I'm working in agricultural research, Grandpa. We're trying to help farmers find new ways to make every dollar work harder.
We want to keep this farm in the family a few more generations.
It's pretty tough, isn't it?
You bet. So your dad and brother are going to need all the help they can get.
And you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
I won't let you down.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
What's the best kind of fruit? The kind that's fresh, moist, and plump. That's why Sunsweet are my favorite kind of pitted prunes. Moist, plump, and fresh. Sunsweet, because the best prunes are fresh prunes.
The Century 21 Action Warranty. We don't just tell you what we'll do to sell your home.
Come with us.
We put our promises in writing.
Put your trust in #1, Century 21.
After an historic entry into Managua last night, Nicaraguan rebel leaders got down to business today. They began negotiations with the Sandinista government, the goal to turn a temporary ceasefire into permanent peace. David Dow has our report.
It was a scene Sandinista leaders once vowed would not occur until the rivers flowed uphill. A delegation of the hated Contra rebels landing in the Nicaraguan capital. Some seeing home for the first time in 8 years.
Y aquí estamos en Nicaragua.
The rivers have not reversed flow, said Pedro Joaquin Chamorro, but we're here.
We have come here with a firm decision to achieve peace in freedom in Nicaragua.
As the peace talks began with a 60-day ceasefire in effect, Nicaraguan Defense Minister Humberto Ortega vowed to keep talking with the Contras as long as necessary to reach a definitive truce. But that could be a long time. The two sides have agreed on 7 ceasefire zones, but the rebels have not moved into them yet, and there's no agreement on how or if they'd give up their arms. Some Contras feel their negotiators have already given up too much. And so today, there was a hard-line stance against joining the Sandinistas in some kind of coalition government.
What we're interested, though, is to create the conditions of liberty, freedom, democracy in this country so that the people can choose directly who has the power.
The Contra delegates were greeted last night by well-choreographed pro-government street rallies. But today, the streets were surprisingly quiet near the hotel, where negotiators hope for progress, at least, in ending the 7-year war. David Dow, CBS News, Managua.
Why do they call it heartburn? When it's me, your stomach, that's hurting. When antacids don't stop the pain from coming back, it could be an ulcer. It's okay, because there are treatment programs to help heal ulcers. If you think you have an ulcer, go see your doctor and ask about the available treatment programs. Sponsored by SmithKline & French, the ulcer experts. You could make your stomach very happy.
My wife, every night she disappears into the bathroom. Who knows what's going on? But whatever it is, it makes her feel really good. See?
Clean away stains and freshen dentures with Efferdent every night.
Hemorrhoids. They hurt, burn, and swell. And more doctors recommend Anusol to relieve the hurting than all other hemorrhoid medicines combined. Anusol is the word to remember for relief.
Presenting the winning performance, the winning look, the winning ways of Buick's great American coupe, the new Buick Regal. Introducing the totally new Regal Grand Sport with a powerful fuel-injected V6 engine, world-class aerodynamics, each wheel independently suspended to grip the curves, and the stopping power of a disc brake at each wheel. The Regal Grand Sport, the newest member of a very Regal family.
The great American road belongs to Buick.
In the Northeast today, spring was interrupted by a taste of winter. Nearly 1 foot of snow fell in some parts of Maine, combining the beauty of two seasons. Trees and flowers just beginning to bud found themselves today peeking from under a blanket of white. Poland is in the middle of a week-long commemoration of the doomed Warsaw Ghetto uprising against Nazi troops. The communist government trying to use the anniversary to improve its relations with all Jews wherever they live. Bert Quint has our report.
After decades of unheeded pleas, a symbolic passenger list of those who rode the trains of no return to Treblinka and Auschwitz has been etched into a wall of remembrance being finished today at the old Warsaw Ghetto. Evidence of a change in communist Poland's official attitude toward the Jews. Other indications, the party has apologized for the 1968 purge that drove most of those who survived the Holocaust here into exile.
Shalom.
And it is welcoming thousands of Jews for the 45th anniversary of the ghetto uprising with gentle courtesies as well as official ceremonies, like the temporary conversion of a nightclub to a kosher restaurant. Jewish businesses welcome, too, in the spirit of Polish perestroika. Production of kosher vodka began this week, mainly for export. There are hardly any Jews left here to drink it. 3.5 million before the war, 5,000 now. Aside from a few synagogues without rabbis, there's only one place in Poland where the traditions of the Fiddler on the Roof have survived. The communist, state-run Yiddish theater. Never mind that no one speaks Yiddish here anymore. The actors, many Catholic, learn it for their roles, and headsets turn the Yiddish back into Polish for the audience. Jerzy Kosinski, a Polish Jew who became prominent as an American novelist, has been welcomed home, along with his no longer banned books.
I think that the Jewish presence here is not measured by bodies of the Jews, dead or alive. It's measured by the presence in the culture.
Some say all this is meant to improve Poland's image in the West.
But there seems to be a genuine recognition by the regime that between peoples who lived together 1,000 years and who were exterminated together by the Nazis, there is a bond that will not die. Bert Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
And that's the news. Susan Spencer will be here tomorrow. Later tonight on West 57th, Meredith Vieira reports on what can be a living nightmare, the theft of credit cards. I'm Bob Schieffer, CBS News in New York. Good night.
Introducing new A1 poultry sauce, our first sauce ever meant just for chicken. And because its herbs, spices, and fruit were meant just for chicken, new A1 poultry sauce makes the most of chicken any way you make it.
Carol Burnett's sister.
I'm Christine Burnett. Am I funny? No. Does my investment firm Dean Witter still treat me like a star? Uh-huh.
You're somebody, Dean Witter.
A member of the Sears Financial Network.
Why, I like stovetop instead. I'll never forget the first time I made my husband stovetop stuffing instead of potatoes. He loved those breadcrumbs and spices so much, he got carried away. And so did I. Right to the gazebo.
Stovetop instead.
Two centers of force.